Do you know why Gen Z is called Gen Z? Hi, honey, it's mom, and I have a theory. Now, I didn't look this up. This is just based on my own opinion and a lifetime of observation. And warning, I'm going to say the word generation a ridiculous amount of times in this video, and I'm sorry. So, going back in time, generations typically had names. Those names typically came from events in history or periods of time that defined the youth of that generation. And this goes all the way back to the 15th century. But the last century or so, here are the generations. So the lost generation, that's right after the Civil War. The greatest generation, that was World War I and pre-Depression era. The silent generation, those were the Depression era and World War II babies. The baby boom generation, aka the baby boomers, post World War II era when the population exploded, aka the baby boom. And then there's Gen X, and I promise we're getting to Gen Z, don't worry. So, Gen X, that's where I am. I'm an X. Generations were typically named by the generations before them, like their parents and their grandparents. Gen X occasionally got named the slacker generation, the MTV generation, and I even heard us referred to once as the backwash generation, if you can believe that.
How about no?
But mostly what stuck was X. We were labeled as lazy, slackers, and apparently unworthy of a name. We just got a letter, basically a letter that means nothing. And when the next generation came along, they got labeled Gen Y, the next letter of the alphabet after Gen X. Now we know them as millennials, so they actually got a name that stuck, but originally they were known as Gen Y, which leads us to Gen Z, X, Y, and Z, right? And then after that, we've got generation alpha, beta, gamma, because for some reason we switched to the Greek alphabet. So instead of A, B, and C, we're going to have Gen Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. So here's my theory. The reason Gen Z is called Gen Z is because the baby boomers called us Gen X because we were lazy. But I think they were the lazy ones and couldn't come up with a creative name, so they just slapped an X on us. And that started a trend of lazy naming. And instead of something like Generation Fucking Amazing, you just got stuck with a Z. And I'm sorry.
Oh, the horror!
But in all seriousness, this is what had happened. So Gen X is the natural original name of a generation that had yet to define itself. So we got a letter, but the reason we got an X instead of an L or a Q or something is because my generation was labeled as unknown, forgotten, or undefinable, hence the letter X. So we just named the next generation Gen Y, and you got Gen Z because it's the next letter in the alphabet. Gen Z is sometimes known as Zoomers, but I think that sounds too much like boomers and it really doesn't define who you are as a generation. It just starts with the letter Z, right? I think you're more creative than that, and you can come up with a better name. You're sometimes also called iGen because you were the first generation to grow up with smartphones and tablets. But it's your generation, and you can name yourself whatever you want. But that's why you're called Gen Z. So what do you think? Do you think Gen Z is just a continuation of a lazy naming convention? Do you think Gen Z is still yet to be defined? Do you like the name Gen Z? What would you prefer to be called? Let me know in the comments. I really can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. Until next time, remember, you're amazing, you're smart, you're capable, and I'm proud of you. Always remember to wear clean underwear and eat your veggies. Bye.